So let me guess. The MCU is back. This is the review of Champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. First up, on camera, Mr. Taylor First. How are you?
I am terrific.
That's great to hear. No puns this time. That's good. Let's keep that up, people. Uh, also on camera, we have Merv. How are you, man?
I am fantastic.
Voice only, we have Mr. Lord Deathman. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
And last but not least, we have Lokismom. How are you?
I'm doing better and better, and I want you guys to know we're going to build this world together.
So close. Today we're going to talk about Thunderbolts. But before we do, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our forum at sakar.freeforums.net. You can do that by clicking on the link in the description. That will get you to the setup and account page, and then the fun begins. Consider this your final warning. After this point, we are spoiling the movie. So if you haven't seen it, do that first and then check out our video. We are going to do 3 rounds in this review. First, we do quick thoughts. After that, we do a deeper dive into our likes and dislikes for this film. And we will. Our final round will be a rating. But you never know. Maybe some afterthoughts come up as well. So let's just dive into it. Thunderbolts. Valentina, she's in trouble with the U.S. Congress, and she's trying to get rid of the evidence. Well, basically, that's the movie, right, Merv?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Did you like it?
I did. I thought it was a really fun action comedy with a bunch of fun, wacky characters all having to work together, sometimes against their own will, and to overcome some threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I really enjoyed it.
Lokismom, did you?
Absolutely, I thought this was probably one of the best Marvel outings they've had in quite a while, and I thought all the characters came together. They melded, and the story was pretty good. It was pretty standard as that goes, but well told and funny, well scripted, and I enjoyed it.
Taylor, I know you never said that Marvel was dead or back or whatever. You don't do that roller coaster. You always give 9s and 10s. So, but did you enjoy Thunderbolts?
Yes, I did very much. The characters were forced together in order to survive and ended up having to work together and form a team to save the world or save New York City. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Lord Deathman, do you agree with the panel and your host that it was fun?
Yeah, I do think that this movie was a lot of fun. It doesn't bring anything particularly new to the table in terms of the genre, but I think this particular cast working together as a team in front of and behind the cameras, their chemistry really is undeniable as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor, we have been complaining, or I have been complaining, that there was too little connective tissue in phase 4 and 5 so far. Phase 4 and 5 are now over. We get finally some connective tissue, and hurrah, everybody's happy again. Isn't that a little bit hypocritical? Besides that, do you have any criticisms of this movie?
First of all, the movie is Thunderbolts asterisk. People keep forgetting to say asterisk. It's very important part of the title. The funny thing to me on this movie, well, what struck me as kind of funny, is that with the only exception being Bucky and Yelena, all these characters, we've only actually seen them once, but we still feel very connected to these characters because they've done such a good job of creating them and marketing them. I'm not counting the cartoon, the What If cartoon. I'm talking about in live action. Red Guardian was only in one movie, uh, Black Widow. Ghost, of course, was only in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yelena was in Black Widow, and she was in Hawkeye series. Taskmaster, of course, was only in the one movie, uh, Black Widow.
No, she was
And
hardly in this movie either.
well, yeah, she died pretty quick, and that actually, this movie had stakes. Somebody died, but no, that was actually kind of surprising to me that she died so fast. Um, but it was good. Again, I thought that was actually good for the scene and good for the story overall. How they were all sent into that place to die, but they were each given another one of them as a target to kill. So they were all trying to kill each other, which of course set up a really good action scene in there. And all of the action scenes in this movie were really great, in my opinion. Even starting with Yelena breaking into that lab in the opening scene. But again, even though we haven't really seen these characters that much, it all felt very familiar. It all felt like we knew these characters, even though we'd only seen them once, and for some of them, it's been quite a while since we've actually seen them on screen. And they all came together. They all worked together again, as someone said earlier. The chemistry is really there. They're all good actors, and as far I'm trying to think of it. You asked me about negatives. I haven't thought of one yet. Maybe one will come to me at some point. But as of now, all I got is praise for this movie, and it's how it set up the future. Um, Valentina. Valentina is another one we've only seen. I mean, we've seen her in several things, but only a few seconds of of screen time in each of them. So grand total, we probably have like less than 5 minutes of screen time of Valentina before this, but we felt like we knew this character, and of course we got a ton of her in this movie. So again, I just think everything came together really well. I think the story was really tight. Of course, introducing the Sentry Bob Void, whatever he's going by today, was really well done. Of course, that actor, that Lewis Pullman, I think his name is, did a really great job. And of course, they did a great job with this character, introducing this character. A lot of people, thought about Sentry from the comics, and I'm not real familiar with all of his storylines and stuff from the comics, but I do know that he's like super overpowered in the comics. So a lot of people were kind of nervous. How are they going to handle this character, especially this group of the Thunderbolts asterisk, who all have relatively limited power set available to them. What were they going to do with this Superman level type character? Well, it turns out they had to use their heads and understand who they were dealing with, and of course that was Bob deep inside, and of course they had to get into his mind and understand that he was really a victim in this whole thing. He wasn't controlling it. Valentina was pulling the strings, and she couldn't control it any more than he could. So the whole climax of the movie, where they're getting the whole storyline thread where their void touches you, and you see your worst memories, the worst thing that ever happened to you. And then of course Yelena realizing the same thing was happening to Bob. He was stuck inside of that void in his worst nightmares, and that they had to go in and get him. Again, I'm not saying it anywhere nearly as effectively as it was portrayed on the screen, but it was actually very powerful, the psychological damage that this character had, and the things they had to go through to try to help him in order to save all the innocent lives that were about to be destroyed. I just found it extremely entertaining and gripping, even though everyone was well, I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people were kind of expecting this to be a humorous movie outing, and there was of course humor, and the humor that was there was organic. Red Guardian is a funny guy. He can't help but be funny. But again, even his humor was organic. It was his personality. It was not suddenly pie in the face type stuff happening. It was all organic, but the themes of this movie and the story was was quite serious, and there were a lot of stakes, and it was pretty hard hitting in some parts because all of these characters have trauma that they had to deal with and they had to get over in order to make themselves better people and come together and actually become a hero team of some sort, some way, shape, or form in order to save people. Um, I just want to point out one other thing real quick. The actress who plays young Yelena in her flashback trauma is the same actress that played young Yelena in Black Widow. So I like that they kept the continuity there as well. But yeah, I would say if I think of a complaint later, I'll raise my hand. But as of now, I really don't have any complaints. The movie was fun. The action was great. The story was compelling, and it set up some stuff for the future for the MCU. So right now I'm happy.
Yeah, but I almost agree with everything you said. But Lord Deathman, I do, however, think that the Red Guardian was a little bit too much on the comedic side from time to time. At least that's my opinion. How do you see that?
I thought, given the character's sort of background and how he was introduced as a sort of comedic foil, I didn't think it was too much because they put it into the right character. They kind of banked all of their humor under this one umbrella, and I think Taylor's pretty right. The humor that you do get in the film happens fairly organically, and I think David Harbour is just a very strong character actor, so his humor doesn't really bother me. It's it's when you throw in the humor, sort of constantly, and it just comes out of nowhere and it undercuts what has already happened that was serious, right? Two people are in a room, they're having an intense conversation, maybe they're accusatory of each other, and then, someone throws in a joke, which the writer, I guess, felt was supposed to diffuse some tension. But just undercut like all of the drama that just came, all of the goodwill that they might have bought in a conversation just got sucked into the void. If I've got to use language vernacular of the Thunderbolts, but this movie, and people say this a lot, and it's a cliche in terms of why people tend to like movies like this, but this movie has a lot of heart, and it really does have a solid emotional core, which I think helps this movie feel a lot more cohesive. It also has some brilliantly designed action sequences, and it has a cast. Again, I think the top thing that Thunderbolts has going for them, and the reason that I would want to see an outing with most of these characters or all of these characters again is the chemistry. I think working off of each other dramatically, comedically, in action sequences, they're a well-oiled machine for a team that kind of just debuted and is largely made up of characters that only had one-off appearances either in Disney Plus or in someone else's movie or something like that. So even if you have to call the next one New Avengers, I would be in to see this group again because they're just so entertaining. I know it would be a good night at the movies, no matter what the plot was about. So yeah, I'm all in with Thunderbolts, and if I had to be critical of anything that was kind of going on in it, um, for me it is Julia Louis Dreyfus, who I love as an actress. Don't get me wrong, a veteran Veep or Seinfeld, wherever she goes, she usually adds a lot of value. But it's been a slow climb for me to try and get used to her as a character. I'm not sure what my cognitive dissonance is there, but I will say that every time I see her, I do like her a little better. But I wasn't quite there yet in this movie. I don't know. There's even when she's being serious, there's always some kind of comedic undertone to it that I feel just isn't like the best fit for the roles that they're asking her to play in this universe. But I spotted Wendell Pierce in this movie as a congressman. I always like to see that guy. Great character actor, really underrated. Um, the bunker scene, just yeah, awesomely choreographed, very memorable. I'm putting it in my top 10 or top third sort of MCU fight sequences, so sort of battle plan type things. It was really really cool to watch that, and I think Ghost, who I never had a problem with, I'm just finding out now that people didn't think Ghost was as strong a character as she could have been in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But some of the action sequences in that movie with Ghost in it are amazing. I'm not really sure why people weren't satisfied with the character in the past, but in any event, she really dials it up here. They really make her power set work and use it in novel ways that I was like, oh, okay, that's what I would do if I had those powers. And uh, yeah, I again, not much to say about this from a critical point of view, but the biggest thing, even above the chemistry of all the characters for me, I think if anyone was doubting it before this movie, we now can say that Florence Pugh is the MVP of the MCU right now. She simply is the best character to come out of the most recent phases of what I'm calling the second or third gen character set of MCU characters. I hope she wants to stick around in the franchise for a little while, because you would have had no movie without her ability to sort of juggle the comedy, do the dramatic pieces, be a support, like, and they've written the character in such a way that it's not like watching a certain Star Trek show where one character seems to come to the forefront all the time. Yelena also manages to be great support for her teamwork, for her teammates, and a great ally in that respect. Never taking herself too seriously, but able to get serious when the moment demands it. So, again, I hope to see more of this team. I really enjoyed this movie. I'll just make a quick anecdote to finish my deep dive. While walking out of the theater, I tend to eavesdrop on the conversations just to get the sentiment of what was going on. And there was a young moviegoer who said something to the effect of, "So they beat him by hugging him to death." Right. And I think that this was a reference to the way Sentry got taken out. By the way, brilliant sequences with Sentry too. Really enjoyed that. But I guess the feeling was, it took a group hug to really bring Sentry out of it, and this younger moviegoer might have felt that that wasn't, cool enough or hardcore enough for to really satisfy the genre. But I'm totally okay with the Thunderbolts having beaten their villain by hugging him to death. I think it worked well for the movie.
Yeah, that was actually my bridge towards Loki's mom. I wanted to ask her if she was okay with winning by group hug, but you just stole my thunder. But thank you for that. Before I go to Loki's mom, Taylor had a follow up.
Yeah, well, the hug thing just shows that the Thunderbolts don't just shoot and punch; they have other abilities as well. But I just wanted to follow up real quick. Ghost is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. She just is.
Yeah.
Hannah John Kamen does a fantastic job, and if you haven't watched it, she does a great job, or she did a great job for 5 seasons on Killjoys on Sci-Fi, which is a really fun sci-fi show. Starts strong, gets a little weaker as time goes on, but that's common for shows. But she's fantastic in it.
Okay, thank you. But I'm moving on to Loki's mom now. Loki's mom, I don't have a cool question for you now because Lord Deathman just stole my thunderbolt. So I just want to ask you: do you have any criticisms of the movies, or of this movie, or do you want to just praise it as well?
Only one complaint. I'm pretty sure the CIA director does not need to be impeached. The president can fire him or her anytime at his will, at his discretion. As far
Hmm.
as I know, I thought that was just a tad ham-handed to have. I mean, they could have written it differently so that they don't have to have impeachment thrown out there. But I understand why they did it. But anyhow, really no complaints. Yeah, it was well done. I think Taylor and Lord Deathman have stole my thunder as far as what it goes. I'll sort of do a little deep dive into what I think's going on here, because we talk about the group hug. They were able to draw Bob back out of his void, um, by loving him, by showing him affection, by comforting him and telling him it's okay. And Bob, now remember, he was just some schlub that off the street that got cooked into this super soldier program. Wound up being the one who survives. Bless his heart. He has no idea what going on with him. So yeah, he was really just lost. And so when they go into that whole void where you're inside, I guess inside everybody's head at that point, um, and they're all together. They're all in that one spot with Bob, and they can feel feel his pain, feel what he's going through, because he doesn't understand what's happened to him. They're all seasoned superheroes, or they, even though they've been sort of on the bad side of it, they're not the really good ones. They're the rough and tumble. And, U.S. agent, he's ashamed, just utterly failed at being Captain America. Um, Yelena, she's trying to deal with the death of her sister, and trying to reconnect with her adopted father, and I think that was well done. I think there's Francis Pugh and David Harbour. They really had great chemistry together. I really feel that the affection and the love for each other that those two characters have for each other, and sort of depend on one another. Um, yeah, the Ghost. I thought big upgrade as far as how her appearance from Quantum Mania. So, Quantum Mania. I was trying to say Quadramania, which was the Who album from. Anyway, I'm showing my age again, but anyway. So yeah, I thought that was really just it was a different take. It was a different direction to go by because we had the great fight scenes, and I love the here come Red Guardian down the middle of Utah desert in a stretch limo, and of course Bucky comes riding to the rescue, and how are they going to resolve that? And yet Bucky had it. He had that. Under control the whole time. So, and then of course, when there was another great scene where they crash into that office great glass, and everybody, and they're standing there and sort of looking at each other with Valentina and her crew. And if you look in the background, the cars on the New York City, they're just going up and down. People, they don't. The public, I think, at this point have become desensitized to this. It's like we were seeing, if just to reference Daredevil, because it was street level action too. People have been dealing with this, and so yeah, at this point, oh hey, they're out there fighting each other and throwing each other across into buildings. And everybody's just getting out of the way and going on with their business. So yeah, hopefully they'll bring a lot more to that, because I guess we found out that they're returning. They'll come back with another movie soon. So probably I dare say they're going to play a part, maybe in a small way, in the upcoming Fantastic Four, which we got a little taste of there at the very end. And oh my gosh, did I love how that rocket looked? That's my style of science fiction right there. So I sweated out all the way through the end of it to see that credit scene, even though I was jiggling my legs the whole time. But anyway, uh, what else did I love about it? Lewis Pullman again played Bob. Now he's the son of Bill Pullman, and he is just an absolute. If you look at Bill Pullman when he was Lewis's age, he's a dead ringer for his dad. So that was just a great treat. And then the actress who plays Ghost, let's see, I believe I wrote her name down. Uh, anyway, her last name is John Connon, John Dash Connon. She is a dead ringer for Emily Blunt. For about 2 minutes into that movie, I thought, well, what's Emily Blunt doing in this movie? And of course, Wendell Pierce always. I get him and Tyler Perry mixed up all the time. So for a few minutes, I thought that was Tyler Perry. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. I think this film finally, it really got the spirit of the Marvel that we're, because we're as a team, reviewing the the sagas, the earlier movies, and I think I just having seen a few of those movies, I got the spirit, I felt it. The only thing missing was a Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah.
Other than
Yeah.
that, it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four.
Well, yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, we cannot get a Stanley cameo anymore, but
No,
those
AI
things
can do it.
happen. Yeah,
it
please
should.
not.
Yeah.
Please no. Um, Before I go to Merv, Lord Deathman, you had a follow up.
Yep, two quick follow-ups. One, some of my thunder got stolen by Loki's mom. I wanted to point out that there were two legacies in this film. Not only Lewis Pullman, but Wyatt Russell,
Oh yeah,
the son
absolutely.
of Kurt Russell. And both of them, this is not a case of nepotism or, entitlements being transferred over to progeny. Both of them did incredible work in this film. And I could see that Wyatt even stepped up his Walker, the sort of ramped up his aggression for this particular movie in the big screen. It worked incredibly well. And just as an aside note, having served the government for a short period myself, you can in fact impeach the director of the CIA.
Okay, all right. I stand corrected.
Okay. Well, Merv. Um, yeah, just have it. Do you have any criticisms of this movie?
I do have a couple, just to not huge ones, but
Finally.
just to bring it down, just to put it in its place a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the big one, not even necessarily with the movie because I thought it worked fine, but the fact that Taskmaster is all over the marketing for this film kind of felt a little misleading, especially whenever it's like she's part of the team. A lot of the marketing implies she's part of the team. She dies before they ever work together. So, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit of that. Although I wouldn't change anything about the movie, I would just maybe like rein back the whole Taskmaster's a part of this film as well because she's in one really great action scene and then you never see her again. So, um, there's a little bit of anti-climax to Bob's defeat, but I expected it, so it's not really a big deal because the only way that this team was going to overcome somebody like Sentry or Void is that way. They weren't going to outmuscle him. They weren't going to beat him to a pulp or anything like that. That was never going to work. That would have never been the plan. Maybe they could have worked something else out, but like this is like one of those examples of like this is the way that they would beat Sentry. Like there's not an alternative path here really. Outside of bringing in somebody who's even stronger randomly, which would have made no sense. Um, and then just a little thing that maybe they could have done a little bit better for me was adding a little bit more emotional weight for Ghost in this film. It's been a while since I saw Ant-Man 2, but they gave plenty for Yelena. They gave a good bit for Red Guardian. They even had some with U.S. Agent, but Ghost felt like emotionally a little bit left out for a character that was in 99% of the movie. She was there very early on and she stays with the main group like the whole way. It wasn't like a Taskmaster situation or something like that. Like she's there in every scene afterward. And I thought her action scenes were great, but it would have been nice to get just a little bit of like something going on an emotional or personal level with that character in this film. Obviously, Ant-Man 2 does that too as well, but just in this film specifically, it would have been nice. Those are really it. That's all I could really think of as far as criticisms go, and none of those really like knocked me down a whole bunch of pegs. It was just like, okay, they could have done this better. They could have done that better. Um, Not much else I can really say as far as the overall. I have to agree with everyone. The action, especially early on, whenever it's before the Void gets involved, whenever it's like super grounded, I thought it was all great. I thought the choreography really lent itself to the individual characters, especially in that four-way fight inside the vault. Everyone had their own like vibe to them. Like the way that they fought matched their characters so well. There's a few standouts. Obviously, Ghost was a big one, just because it's so cool to see the character like go intangible and pop back up and like disappear, and like her power set's really cool. So she stood out a little bit, but everyone had their own like little uniqueness to them in combat, and I thought that was really great. The comedy, the team chemistry, all fantastic. The characters work together so well in this that they were just a joy. In scenes that where nothing is really happening or something mundane is happening, like them walking up the shaft, they're just talking and walking and climbing, and it's entertaining the entire way. So the characters, great, portrayed wonderfully. And I was surprised a bit with how much emotion was involved. The big crux, or I don't want to say crux, but a big theme in this movie is like trauma and mental health and that sort of thing. It's not like in your face with it. It's not a huge thing necessarily, but it's throughout every character in it if you really start looking closely at them. And they touch on a lot of them. But the big ones being like Yelena, who feels, I don't think it's uh, unintentional that she jumps off a building in the first scene, because you're like, is she killing her? No, she's not. She's jumping, parachuting. But she's like, so many characters in this feel like rudderless, like they don't have a purpose in their life anymore or whatever. And that's really kind of what the whole movie kind of comes together, is like this new team, this thing gives them like something to get them up and at them again. Gives them something to do, something to feel important in life, and get over a lot of their mental issues. So I thought that was pretty interesting. A couple highlights again: that four-way fight, the convoy scene when Bucky shows up, amazing. It was all over the trailer, so we kind of knew what was going on, but it still delivered, and it was incredibly entertaining. Whenever he does the whole fist thing with the grappling hook and flips the Humvee over or whatever, it was just so much fun to watch. And then whenever they're cheering him on, and he shoots the thing and it blows up their truck, and just John Walker's reaction to that had me rolling. I was dying throughout that entire thing. The van ride on the way to Valentina's headquarters, which is now like Avengers Tower, I guess, or the Watchtower, or whatever she called it. Just the normal conversations where the three in the back are talking about the gear that they use, and the two up front, like Bucky and Alexi, are talking. I don't even remember exactly what was said. I just remember being like, "This is fantastic." This gave me a lot of like vibes of, if you've ever seen Game of Thrones. Whenever all the characters go beyond the wall, there are a bunch of mishmashed like oddities, and they're all just talking about stuff. They're talking about, oh, so you're so and so, what's going on. That gave me those vibes. In a shorter scene, obviously, but a lot of fun. And then Yelena and Alexi's conversation, whenever Yelena essentially has her breakdown in the second half of the film before they finally face the void. Just it was great. There's so much backstory between those two characters, father daughter, but like he didn't want the daughter. It was all a big thing, but to her it was all real. Like there's so much stuff there that really comes out, and him being so supportive of her was really pretty emotional and touching, and I really like that aspect to their relationship a lot. Like it feels like they covered a lot of ground in Black Widow, and then in this movie here, as far as those two characters go. Had a lot of fun with this movie. It's I can't wait to rewatch it.
Me neither. Before we move on to our rating, Lord Nefman had something to say.
Yep, just another quick follow up. I'm not going to add this as a criticism, but I was kind of hoping to go into the void, as it were, quote unquote, with Ghost and maybe Red Guardian, and I would have traded Valentina for one of those. But I'm not going to call it a criticism. There's only so many times you can run through people's trauma, given the runtime of the film. So it was just one of those things that I thought would have been nice to have.
Yeah, I agree. Well, then I think it's time for a rating. I'm going to start with you, Lokismom. How do you rate Thunderbolts?
I am going to give it an 8.5 Thunderbolts.
Okay.
And it's not named after Thunderbolt Ross, by the way. It's named after the soccer ball team.
Yeah, we just call it football. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, football. Pardon me.
Yeah, exactly. This is a European show. You need to adjust. Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, just follow up on what Merv said. this is a movie you really need to see more than once. I've only seen it once so far, of course, but I'm going to see it multiple times because there is so much going on in this movie, especially in all of those conversations that they have. There's really a lot. There's a lot of amusement and entertainment value, but there's also a lot of information going on in all of those conversations. As far as ratings go, well, the MCU is not back. The MCU is still here, and it is 10 out of 10.
Okay, I can live with that. Merv.
Yeah, just a little comic book tidbit before I get to my rating. I heard a rumor, and there was nothing in the movie to suggest this, but Lord Deathman may also appreciate this, that the character of Mel, her name might be short for Melissa, which is the first name of the character Songbird. Now,
Right.
I don't know if
Yep.
they ever plan on bringing that character in, but Songbird in the comics is a classic Thunderbolt character who's in pretty much every iteration in some way, shape, or form. Would have been fantastic if they gave us a little, like, Easter egg there, but they didn't, so I can't claim that that's fact. But I just want to throw that out there. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I had a lot of fun. I favor characters over plot most of the time, and this movie delivered on characters quite a bit.
Okay. Lord Deathman.
Yeah, I did notice that thing with Mel, Merv, and I'm also hoping, hoping against hope that we will get our Songbird. But moving on to the rating, I can't wait to rewatch this film. I'm going to give this a solid 9. It was an incredibly strong outing for the MCU. I hope it breaks up some of the, fatigue we're hearing about in the media, if indeed that really is a thing. Based on the box office numbers, it doesn't quite seem like that. But yeah, really good Marvel film.
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I had fun. I thought it was really solid. It wasn't groundbreaking. It was much better than Suicide Squad. Less good than Guardians of the Galaxy, two team up movies that are mentioned a lot in regards to this one. So I'm gonna go 8 out of 10. So you just have to live with that. That will conclude this review of Champions for Thunderbolt Asterix. I do that for you, Taylor, and only for you. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, you can help us out. Like and share this review and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, join our forum at sakar.freeforums.net. We are so welcoming you to do that. Please remember to check out our review series for Andor, currently running on our channel, and a new episode of our Star Trek project is out. And if you want more MCU content, we are doing, as Lokismom mentioned before, an Infinity Saga series as well. Soon we will discuss Thor, I think. Let's see and enjoy, so why don't you? For now, I want to thank you all also on behalf of our other champions, and wish you to be safe and be well. Bye.